And let's begin here with a couple of good breaths. So we're taking deep inhales and deep exhales. And visualize that breath like a wave of the ocean coming in. We're filling ourselves up. And there's not like an immediate moment where it's like, okay, now now it's been 4 counts, so now I need to exhale. But it's just like the ocean wave. It just keeps on going in until it just switches its momentum and it just knows that it's time to leave. See if you can let that be your breath. Taking these good relaxing breaths just like that. And as this breath flows through us, let's take a moment to connect with our intention today. This is the inspiration of water. A week ago, we were working on the Yogilates with being inspired by the element of earth. So we were strong, we were holding poses, we were doing all this good stuff. Today, we'll be much more guided by the element of water. So this will include some things like the flow aspect of it. We'll be flowing back and forth between different shapes. And this naturally happens in different Pilates poses, so that'll be perfect. But also, water has other qualities too. Think of an iceberg that is solid water. So sometimes there is a moment of stillness and solidness, but yet there's like a power in it, a power that can sink the Titanic. It's huge, it's tremendous. There's other aspects. Water can flow a lot. It can have stillness. It can be hot. It can be heated. It can be cold. So there's all sorts of qualities of water. We'll be exploring through all sorts of different things. So leave that idea of water in the back of your mind. And as we travel through our class, just kind of seek for your intuitive knowing to help you just know what is an aspect of water I'd like to incorporate into more of my life. So with that inspiration, with these ideas to lead us on, let's go ahead and begin to take our knees inward toward the chest. And for this first moment, it's almost like we're a little boat on water. And so let yourself kind of rock like you're a boat. So left and right, or forward and backward, whatever way you just know to rock your body. Give it that easy thing to get us started. Good. So if you're on a boat, there's a little thing that I've learned that's very important, that if a wave is coming to you, you face it head on, and that'll make sure that you're not, unless it's a huge wave, that'll make sure that you're not going to just capsize by tipping it over, by making that boat roll. So, but in this next movement, we're kind of imagining what happens if we're not facing it head on. So we're on a boat, our knees are kind of that boat edge, so form a nice 90-degree angle. Arms open out to each side to keep our upper body solid. Let's begin to tilt the knees partway to one side and partway to the other. So it's like this reverberation that's happening in our boat as it's tilting and rocking with the waves. And you get to choose how crazy your waves are. Some people might be going almost to the ground. That requires a lot more core strength to make sure you're not hurting yourself. Some people might just be an easy little tilt to each side, so you get to choose. You can also choose if you're adding a little bit of length by extending toes out and bringing in, extending out and bringing in, or even leaving your legs up, making the center of gravity a lot further away. So you can feel how easy it would be to tilt over with a wave when you're higher like that. So maybe 3 more sets to each side. Good, and then bending the knees, let's plant the feet. We're planting it about that hip distance wide so that we can do bridge pose. So slide the hands in closer. And as we roll up, it's one vertebrae at a time, and then rolling down is reversing that one vertebrae at a time. So perhaps a useful image for this one, if you've ever watched water fall down a pane of glass, maybe a windshield or a window, if you watch it fall down, it's like the glass has lots of spots of water, and then there's one spot that's big enough that it'll start to fall down, and it'll join another spot and another spot, and then it's falling all the way down. So imagine that your vertebrae are like those drops of water, that as we start to tilt it up, it's like starting to fall, and then the whole thing just goes. And then we return back down nice and easy. Let's take just a couple more rounds of that. Up and down. And you get to choose the pace. This doesn't have to be rushed. Let's take 3 more full cycles, whatever pace we're traveling at. Good, and as that last one finishes, hips are on the floor. Let's spread the feet about as wide as the mat. Tilt both knees to the left and just pause for a moment. If your right knee is okay and you want to take left ankle and rest it on the right thigh, that's okay. You do not have to do that. You lifted the ankle, drop it down, tilt knees to the second side. Maybe the ankle lift. And drop it down. A few nice windshield wipers to each direction. You choose the speed. How is our water falling down? Do we need to go fast? Or do we want to go slow? Just find that appropriate speed right now based on how your body is feeling. Good, and when that feels pretty complete, hips are back down on the ground. Let's bring legs up to the sky. Arms perhaps opening back out to the ground if they came in. And let's continue the windshield wiper action. Notice how different cars will have different windshield wipers. So I remember on a school bus, both would kind of go out and in together. So let your legs go out together and squeeze back in together. You're creating your own resistance. So you can go super fast here if you'd like. Maybe you have a fast rain, or maybe you're going super slow, like it's a snowy day and the electricity doesn't want to go quite so easily. It wants to take its time, or maybe the snow is heavy and we're pushing it aside. Whatever image is helpful to allow your muscles to get this gentle opening and closing action. So here's 3, 2, 1, and then letting the knees bend, open them back out wide. Hands can rest on the inner thighs. We're trying to get the inner thighs to stretch just a little bit. It may not be a significant amount, but it's happening. So that blood rushing back to our feet. It's that nice reminder that we are so much water. We're more water than really anything else. We have to continuously drink water or our body will seriously go into problems without enough. I've known people that have had to go to the hospital because they didn't drink enough water and they got so dehydrated, they were even kind of going a little bit crazy. The water is so important for this whole system to work. Good, so now bringing the knees back together, extend legs back up to the sky. Maybe this time hands are on the floor by our hips or even thumbs slightly under the hips. So this action, think of it like a flow like water. It's not supposed to be so rigid necessarily. So knees can be bent through all or part of it. But the idea is we're lowering our legs down to the point where we have control and the low back is on the ground. The moment it starts to get too far, bend the knees, circle the feet up, and we're back up to the start at the sky. So maybe this is almost like the water cycle, like when the clouds carry the rain away, and then the moment we bend, it's like the rainstorm comes down, and then reaching back up is like the evaporation back up to the sky. So let the legs do this motion. Again, fast is fine or slow is fine. It's really your body. It's up to it to know what this perfect amount is. You try to see if you can flow with your breath also. Find a rhythm that works with what you're doing. Make sure you're constantly checking in. Maybe you're challenging yourself in how low you go, but do you still have that control to keep the low back on the ground? Try to take 5. And it's okay if your pace is different than mine. Heading for 4. 3. 2. And 1. Beautiful work. Let's take right ankle onto left thigh and give it a hug for a moment. Opening the arms, send this unit that the legs are in a simple little twist over to the left side. Know that if you want to scoot the legs closer to that left shoulder, that'll make it a little bit deeper, or scooting it further away makes it less intense. So choose that perfect spot. Giving our hips a little break for this second. Stack this right knee on top of left knee. Just a couple of breaths, maybe a good cycle or two. Then what I'd like us to do is do an action that will help us to loosen out the right hip, and then we'll take those stretches on the second side. So this right foot is going to extend out just a little bit, and then we're going to fling it down toward the back of our mat and then circle all the way around. I like to kind of bend my knee as I reverberate back up and then circle it right back to where it was. So it's like you're tracing like a huge semicircle at the back of the mat. You'll start to notice it's like inner thigh, outer thigh. Just getting easy stretches to both spots. Good, so maybe one more cycle. Putting those hips free out. And then let's plant our feet. Before the second side, let's take a few more of the bridge poses, up and down. So rolling up, feel those raindrops collect and gather and fall together, and then rolling down. Find the pace that works, flowing with your breath. Maybe 3 more. 2. 1. Okay, so left ankle up onto right thigh, give it a hug. Bring up the arms, tilt the legs of this unit to the right. Maybe the arms are starting to spread open. Feeling that part of our body be solid, while the lower half is becoming much more liquid. Release the ankle to just a simple stacked knee twist. And that couple of momentum swings to each side. Let the toes slide out just a little bit. And then swing through the bottom, out to the other side. Reverberate back and forth. This is super helpful for our hips because our hips tend to really be in one of two positions in our modern times. It's either sitting or standing, walking forward. So our hips don't usually get these kinds of directions and movements. So we're helping to free out the things that feel tight. Give you one more set. And then right back to bridge pose. Hands on the floor. Let's lift up and down a couple of times. Notice if with the hips feeling so much looser than they were a moment ago, notice if you're beginning to feel a difference. Two more of these, and then we have an optional challenge if you want to kind of upgrade the format that you're using. So if you're going for the challenge, keep the left foot on the ground, right leg slides out. Right leg will lift up to the sky, and then the hips will lift back up. Exhale, hips down, and then leg down. So if you're going for that, let's do another 6 on this side. Up, up, down, down. 5. 4. 3. 2. And 1. Good. Plant the right foot, slide the left leg out if you did this challenge. And we're lifting up for 7, and up, down, and down. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. Last one. Beautiful work. Plant the left foot. Right leg back up to the sky and just hug onto the backside of the leg for a moment. This is up to you to decide exactly what you're doing here. So maybe the foot is circling around. Maybe the leg is kind of easing into the hamstring, trying to work its way straighter, pulling in. Or maybe there's simple stillness, working on more of the iceberg solid water. We want to try to make the stretch a little bit deeper. You can slide the left leg long. Maybe walk the hands up the right leg. Try to pull that knee in toward the forehead. Good. And then head up or down, your choice. Let's do some straight leg switches. We can absolutely use the hands for this first set. Imagine maybe this is almost like a water turbine, like that water flowing through and creating energy. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and leave the left leg up, right foot flat. Just grab onto the back side of the thigh. Maybe we're doing some circles. Maybe we're straightening the hamstring. Maybe there's just stillness. It's all your preference. Maybe the stretch is going deeper. We can slide that right leg out or walk the hands up the left side, pulling the knee into the forehead. And if you're wanting the head to relax back down, that's great. Let's begin to take some more straight leg switches. You can use hands again, or without hands would make it a bit harder. So your preference and the difficulty level. Keep the breath going, a nice exhale each time we're passing through. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let the knees bend. Let's take a few windshield wipers, just a nice recovery for a moment. Take a few windshield wipers, a few bicycles. Let it be as circular and as smooth as possible. Trying to make it much more water-like and less like rigid, like we're going straight out to an angle or something. So continuous flow, continuous movement. One knee starts in. When that one starts to travel up to the sky, it lowers down, the other knee comes in. So think of it like this constant circle going on. How circular can we make this? It's like we're creating little eddies in the water that we're watching. Here's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good work. Drop the knees down. Let's bring the arms up overhead. With the feet both planted, let's just circle the arms through the sides, try to lift as much of the back off the ground as possible. And then the arms drop back down like that wave of the ocean to circle and return back. It's not necessarily that there's an end point, but it's like there's like continuously motion until suddenly there's not motion. And it's okay if you can't come all the way up. You can either grab thighs and just lift as much as you can. to return down, or just swing your arms to the point where you have that control and then return back down. So the angle is not necessarily as important as the flow aspect of it. Good. If you're still doing okay, let's try for 5 more. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Ooh, good work. Now strong core stuff. So if you're still doing okay, let's go immediately into that water cycle one again. So maybe the thumbs right under the hips, legs up to sky. We try to lower down to whatever point we have control, and it's okay if it's less than what we were doing earlier. We've done a lot of fatiguing of our muscles. Eventually the knees bend to reverberate back up to the sky. So here's 3, 2, and 1. Good, a moment with happy baby, grabbing outside edges of feet. You can rock, you can be in stillness, whatever's useful for the easing of the tight spots, especially in the hips. Good. Eventually start to plant the feet back down and roll over onto the side body that helps you to see me the best. Slide the feet in so that way you're creating more of a banana shape rather than a straight line. Top hand is on the ground, keeping the upper body solid. This top thigh rotates up, trying to get the knee to point upward as much as possible. From there, you'll slide the toes up the thigh, so it's like a bent knee. We're trying to slide it in as much as we can. As soon as we have to lift away from the thigh, continue to bring the knee as close to the shoulder as you can, and then extend it up to lower all the way down. So this is very similar to that water cycle movement that we did. So slide all the way up, go up to the sky, and then the rain comes all the way down. Let's take another 8. 7. 6. Starting to feel that strength working. 5. 4. 3. 2. Last one. And give it a break for a moment. The knees can be slightly bent if that helps the muscles to feel like they're getting that rest. Preparing by returning back to that same shape. This top leg lifts up just to be about level with the hip, and then we'll do some small circles. So quick circles, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, reverse, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, rest. That's like little swirls that we see in the river. Okay, This next one is essentially, it's like you're swimming in the water. So your feet are just kicking left and like just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You might be lifting your ribs a little bit off the ground. That's okay. Feel that core activation. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rest. Got one more thing before we'll be switching sides. With this last one, we're gonna try to be lifting the hips off the ground and lowering it back down. So bring the legs back to the straight line, or you can do this from bent knees. So either way, feet or knees. We start to bring our elbow underneath us, and then we're gonna try to lift the hips up and down. So I'm gonna go for 10. If you don't reach 10, just keep that number in mind for the second side so you can stay even. So when you're ready, hips lift. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good work. So we're going to do a couple of stretches before the second side, getting your top leg to stretch out. So some of us that will be left, some of us that will be right. Come up to a seated place. The leg that was just your top leg, that ankle is going to come up onto the other side. So you choose how deep this is brought in. So it could be further, it could be closer. Usually people will just keep the hands on the ground behind them, but some people might be pushing on the knee or even sliding it in to give it a hug. It's whatever your balance can maintain to help you feel that left hip. Sorry, for me it's left hip, to feel your hip that was upward before. Good. So the same side hand as that foot is up, that hand grabs the foot. The other hand can just kind of prop us up off to the side, and we'll pull that leg open like a half happy baby. This is version 1. If you like this, just continue to try to explore how far back that hip can go. Version 2 would be to try to get the shoulder close to the kind of the inside of the knee. So again, if you're playing with this one, you're trying to push the hip as open as it can backwards. Good, so one more breath. And then start to cradle out that leg. The other one can just drop down to the floor. A couple of rocks, whether you're using your hands or your elbows. Good, then lower this leg down to shin stack or to cross leg. Whatever works better to keep both sitting bones down. When you're there, find your hands on the floor and slide forward. Good, so that leg's pretty well stretched out. Go ahead and make your way back up. And let's face the other way so that we're gonna be working the second side. So rather than being the straight line, we bring the toes slightly forward, that banana shape. The other hand's on the ground, keeping the rest of our body solid. Rotate the top thigh upward, and then bending the knee, drag the toes up, and then point up. And straight leg all the way down. Repeating 9. 8. This is one that you don't necessarily feel right away. It's after several reps that you're like, okay, I'm there. 7. 6. 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good, let it rest. Even slightly bent knees is really helpful for that rest. Legs back to their spot. Top leg about as level as the hip. We do those small circles like we're creating a little eddy. So going for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reverse 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And rest. Even with bent knees or massage. Sometimes you'll notice one side is so different than the other. So if you ever need breaks, that's all. You always have my permission. You can always take breaks. Okay, the next one's that one kicking through the water like we're swimming. So when you're ready, lift it up to hover just above the ground and then going back and forth a few rounds. Keep the breath flowing. And 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Last one before those good hip stretches. We're coming up to our elbow. We're on the knees or legs straight to use the feet. We're gonna lift the hips up and down, going for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good work. Coming to sit, the leg that was just on top, now that ankle comes up to the other thigh. Again, whatever helps you to open up that hip, take the time. Maybe the hand is pushing, maybe we're sliding the foot in or out. Sometimes I can do the hug. Sometimes that knocks people off of balance, so don't feel like you have to. Same side hand grabs that top foot and pulls it open for the half happy baby. Or maybe we try to get that shoulder underneath and try to push that hip actively back as much as we can. Good. Another breath in. Exhale, release. Coming into that baby rocking pose. Rocking that hip out left and right. And then once again, drop the shins to stack or just crossed leg. Once you're there, slide hands on the floor, going forward. Okay, when we rise back up here, we've got just a little bit more activity, and then we'll wrap up with some more good hip stretches just similar to this. So we've got just a hair more. So what I'd like us to do is find ourselves kind of balancing on our hips, and we're grabbing onto either the front part of our feet or our heels, whatever works best. The toes are kind of coming to kind of this pointed spot in front of us. So from here, try to let one leg stretch out and bend it back in. Second side. It's okay if the group is kind of weird. You can even grab onto more of like the shin area if that's what's working. Yeah, whatever that spot is. Sometimes it's like a kiddo, that's okay. Maybe 1 or 2 cycles trying to do both out together and back in. Maybe one more. Good. That's all good. That's all good. Okay, let's come on to hands and knees. Give your spine just a little bit of time, maybe some left and right motions, maybe up and down, or maybe it's almost like your torso is a water bottle and you're letting the water swish all around, so whatever angles and random directions that would swish in. Good. So you'll notice we're doing a lot with the hips. So far as speaking of chakras, the element of the hips is water. So that's why we tend to focus on that a bit. So what I want us to do here is lower down to elbows. We're gonna take an elbow plank, and then from the elbow plank, we're gonna kind of dance our hips like left and right. So it's like one hip is dropping a little bit lower, and the other hip is dropping lower. So I'll do a count of 10 to each side, 10 more of these. But if you need to drop down sooner, that's okay. Here's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good work. Lower down to Sphinx pose. As you drag your heart forward, slowly your abdominal muscles get that stretch. Good. Sliding the arms forward, we're going to take swimmers. So this can be done either one at a time or both together. So we start with right hand and left leg lifting and lowering, and then opposites. So left arm, right leg, lifting and lowering. So this is perfectly fine just to keep it at this nice steady pace. You could also have both hover and just continuously flow back and forth. That's up to you. I'm personally going to do this slower pace today. For those back muscles, maybe we haven't built up that much strength and we're ready to work on that lower back strength. Feel the glutes, feel the back, even the shoulders helping us to lift. Let's take another cycle of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Take a child's pose for a moment. Shift all the way back. Okay, so this last one will be our final strengthening pose. I'll give you 2 variations based on what seems to be working for your body today. Variation 1 is going back and forth between a child's pose position and a cobra pose position. So just be going back and forth. You'll start to feel your shoulders getting warmer as we go. Option 2 would be back and forth between downward facing dog and upward facing dog. But as you do it, try to undulate the spine. So it's like your head is coming out very last, and then your head tucks in first to undulate back to your sacrum. Like rolling that spine up and rolling it back up to your hips. Keep on doing this. Maybe I'll count another 5, but if you want to drop down to child's pose sooner, that's okay. It'll be child's pose when we're completed. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good, and then we can all take a moment with child. So feel how that was very much one aspect of water. Water can become rapid, like going over rapids if you're whitewater rafting. So water can be that quality. It can also be heated and steamy. And water can also be calm and still. So these last couple of poses are heading more toward that kind of stillness. We're going to take just a couple of breaths with pigeon pose each side. So whatever way you get to pigeon pose, get your right leg forward, left leg back. And before you drop all the way down to sleeping pigeon, place one hand on the floor to each side of you. And just give your spine some freedom. This could be left and right. This could be almost like a cat-cow. Or it could be rotating one shoulder in and then the other. So maybe 3 or 4 cycles to help loosen up any tight spots, and then just lower all the way down to sleeping pigeon. Think of how water, when it's not being acted upon by some force like gravity or something like that, water has this tendency to just be calm and cool. So think about, if I've thrown a rock into the lake, I shook things up for a while, but it'll eventually work itself back to stillness if there's no wind or whatever else to help to chop it up. Good. So let's head out of this side. Whatever recovery you like, this might be down dog, it might be just kneeling and wagging your tail, whatever feels helpful for a moment. Keep on going until you feel ready for left leg to send its way forward. Only when you're there, you'll do the same thing as before. So a couple of movements with the spine, left and right, maybe cat and cow, or shoulder rotations. Only when that feels happy and complete, you can lower down to elbows. Coming out of this one, take a couple of moments of that recovery, whatever that looks like. That can be the down dog, it can be seated. Just take a couple of breaths of wiggling. Whenever that feels pretty good, take the bottoms of feet together into cobbler's pose. Just a nice seated position, and just let the spine round forward as the hips hold themselves open. Rising up, flip the right knee over to the left knee. You can either keep the legs like this or slide this right leg a little bit wider so that the thigh is by the foot. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, go that way. And then we're gonna continue to spiral and a twist. So for you, it'll be that. Good. So returning back forward, either continue to lean over the easy thigh, So for me, that would be left, or lean forward, that'll be a little bit deeper. You choose the perfect angle. And rising up, a couple of breaths with a quadricep stretch. So hands go on the floor behind us. Maybe that's all the further back we need to go to stretch out that quad. Maybe we lower down to one elbow or both. Good. Rising up, free out this right leg. Go back to cobbler, just a good breath or two. Rising up, we'll want to take the left knee up and over, or whatever way faces you to your second side. If you wanted to separate the distance a bit, that's fine, and then continue to spiral. Coming forward to lean over, maybe just the right thigh, or maybe go all the way forward, whatever works for your body. And rising up, last quadricep stretch, hands on the floor behind. Maybe that's enough stretch. Maybe you want to go lower to elbows. Good, and then as we rise up and unwind that leg, if there's any last stretches you'd like before Shavasana, go ahead and take them. It's up to you exactly when to get to Shavasana. Maybe it's immediately, maybe it's another minute or two of stretching. It's whatever's working for your system. Think of it like not necessarily your mind deciding, but it's like we're trying to tune into this deeper wisdom. Like the water is all over our body. Tune into that water wisdom, if that means anything. And then just help the water guide us to this last little bit, this movement, this last bit of flowing, this last bit of stretching until we know it's time to just rest. No rush to get to Shavasana. If you're still doing stretches, keep on going. If you're ready for Shavasana, listen to your body's wisdom to know exactly what shape would be perfect. For instance, maybe your feet are in cobbler's pose today. Not that you have to, but if your body says, this would be a really fun one to play with today, then feel free to explore it. Here, begin to deepen inhales and exhales. Introducing little movements back to the body, fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. Stretching out like we're waking up first thing in the morning. Eventually taking a nice fetal position off to one side. Enjoy a couple more breaths, maybe 3 or 4, until you feel ready to rise sooner or later. When we arise, let's join our hands together in front of our hearts. We're tuning back into that deeper knowing, that intuition. Is there any aspect of water that we've explored today that you'd like to continue exploring through your life with all the symbolism it might bring? Water is so good at calming, at healing, at nurturing, at cooling, and at flowing. So maybe there's some aspect of water that we'd like to incorporate a little bit more into our lives. So with this inspiration to lead us on, let's wrap up the time we got to share together today with a sound of Om. Deep inhale now. Om. May we be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.